You see Sherman with the pick as a result, and now Baker Mayfield is again. He's struggling, he's running, he's getting hit, and the ball is coming out. Mayfield would turn it over twice in the first 4 possessions of this game. But here's where the game completely turns. Second quarter, Browns have a drive going. They're down 14-3, but they're in the scoring area. They have a chance to get right back in the game, and that ball should be caught.
And Greedy, it's a 14-point swing, really. And to your point, this ball should be caught. Down in the red zone, the ideal ball is low to go protect the receiver, and the ball won't get tipped up in the air. Is it a perfect throw? No. But in the NFL, that should be caught 99 out of 100 times.
Instead, the Niners score a touchdown on the ensuing drive, and now they're in business. Final seconds of the half. That's Mayfield this time getting an intentional grounding on another great pass rush from Nick Bosa, who's had his way with the Browns offensive line. And then, do you recognize the celebration from Nick Bosa? Remember, he played at Ohio State. We all can understand. We'll explain a little later if you don't. Meanwhile, fourth quarter, it's 28-3, and Bosa still bringing the heat.
This is the story of the game. Nick Bosa's coming out party to the national audience. If you single him up last night, he was going to wear out whatever tackle he was against.
Why was he the second pick in the draft? Oh, yeah, that's why. 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, 5 quarterback hits, and a fumble recovery. And then, just to add insult to injury, late in the fourth quarter, game is hopelessly out of reach. You're down 25 points. Odell Beckham, he's going to have it in one hand. Then he's going to have it in the other hand. And then it's going to wind up on the ground. This is the kind of night it was for the Browns. Baker Mayfield, 8 of 22 for 100 yards, 2 picks, 4 sacks. Odell Beckham completed a 20-yard pass and had a higher QBR in the game. This was a disaster of epic proportion for Cleveland.
You can't have mistakes. You can't have turnovers. You can't have drops. You can't have penalties. That's offensively, that kind of summed us up. We just shot ourselves in the foot too many times.
I'm not hitting the panic button. I think for us, it's just, we know the problem. We know we have to, be better. We just have to do better. And when you play a great team, you have to eliminate mistakes. You just have to.
Listen, I mean, the numbers are stark, but you just heard Baker Mayfield say he's not hitting the panic button. Swagoo, are you?
Yep, I am. Listen, the revolving door, the roller coaster ride per se. A week ago, we talked about this team against the Ravens. Had they found something, Nick Chubb went off. They were able to be multiple offensively. Now they resort right back to what we thought their issues were before that game. And here's what is the identity of this team? All right, well, number one, we're talking about Baker Mayfield. What type of quarterback is he? You guys know I'm on record. I think Baker Mayfield is just a middle-of-the-pack guy, right? So if he is that, what are you going to do to support him? And that's Freddie Kitchens' job, is to support Baker Mayfield. If you have an offensive line that can't hold up, you got to call plays to protect your offensive line. The job of the coach. So, look, as much as people rail on Baker, and, I don't want to say I'm not a fan of Baker Mayfield. I just thought a lot of overhyping was going on when he was coming out in the draft and what people talked about with him doing last year. But you look at this team, they got real issues all over the place. Defense got ran through by the San Francisco 49ers. Couldn't protect because of Nick Bosa. And then Baker Mayfield, obviously just not a guy to raise that level of play when you bad around him.
Dan, I have so many questions, but the first I want to ask you is, we can see how bad this was. How much of this is on the quarterback?
Listen, if we think that it's just Baker Mayfield, we're crazy, right? Marcus just laid out a bunch of things. So first of all, this team is the best team in the NFL at beating themselves with turnovers, with penalties, with drops and missed tackles. Baker Mayfield's not blocking defensive ends one-on-one with tight ends. Baker Mayfield's not dropping some of these passes. Baker Mayfield's not asking these tackles to block really good pass rushers one-on-one. So he's part of the problem, absolutely. But to Marcus's point, this team, and it starts from their coach down. I want to talk about when Baker goes at the podium, because it just hit me. We know our problem. No, you don't.
No, you don't.
Because you wouldn't be calling games like this. You don't know your problem because you wouldn't consistently, week after week, or it seems like week after week, expose the weakest part of your football team.
Which is what?
Their offensive line.
So what is their problem? Listen, this doesn't get any easier for them, right? They played a team yesterday that had 15 days of rest. Next week, they get a team that played last Thursday, and they themselves are on a short week. There is no benefit here for Cleveland. What do they have to fix?
You know, I told you how hard it is to win in this league. People think it's hard to win in the NFL. And all the talk about Cleveland and what they were going to do, I get all of that. I get all of that. But right now, Freddie Kitchens is trying to identify how do I best progress this team to be successful. Well, one problem is when you got $100 million receiver on the roster, at some point, he got to be a staple. And I know people going to say, well, Odell missed 2 passes. Odell Beckham is at his best when he's involved highly in your offense. He makes quarterbacks look better than they really are. Second of all, when you start talking about the offensive line, Freddie Kitchens ain't just found out his offensive line bad. He knew Nick Bosa and this defensive line with Armstead and all of the D Ford that they could rush the passer. Nobody's shocking anybody anymore. Like, we about to be in week 6 in the NFL. You pretty much who you are, or you finding out a lot about who you're going to be.
And there's a reality to that. The NFL stands for a lot of things, but it is a what have you done for me lately league. And as much as I love the Browns and Baker, eventually, last year is not going to matter anymore. Eventually, it's going to become, what are you doing right now with your play?
Maybe the best news they have is that no one in the division looks ready to run away, so they have some time to get it figured out. We will come back to the Browns in about 20 minutes. Meanwhile, let's give some credit where it's due to the 49ers. Our FPI, our analytics, our nerds say they're the best team in the NFC, and they're the last unbeaten in the NFC. And boy, Nick Bosa was a big part of the reason why last night, as you look at how good they were. Bosa getting the pressure, and that forces the interception here by Richard Sherman. Sherman having himself a big night there, making the play. And in the second quarter, Mayfield's going to go back to throw, and here comes Bosa again.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the potential of this defensive line totally changing the face of this organization and football team. And last night, they put everybody on notice because of national television how legit they are. And then they got their offense going a little bit. Like, listen, George Kittle, again, he almost had a little bit of a coming out party for the rest of the country. This is a very complete football team.
Richard Sherman, let's talk.
You don't worry about it. You want idiots to sound like idiots, but you want them to hold their position the whole year. Like, don't flip flop with us. Like if you said we weren't gonna make it, you said we were some way early on, just stick with that position. Hold it. Don't try to give us credit now. Don't try to give us credit now. Just stick. If you had us ranked 25, keep us ranked 25. If you had us going home early, if you had us going 3 and whatever, have us going 3 and whatever. You know what I mean? At least stick by your word, because I want you to sound like an idiot at the end.
What? You like that?
Well, listen, I love Sherm, obviously a highly intellectual kid, but guy. This is a team that was coming off a season when they had 7 turnovers as a football team. They drafted a guy, Nick Bosa, out of Ohio State, that I had some scouts tell me he was going to be amazing. Some scouts tell me he was going to be okay. He got injury. Jimmy Garoppolo was coming off an ACL. So, give the national people who might have thought you might just be okay a little bit of a break on that.
It's a long season. I'm telling you.
Are you buying into the 49ers? Are you buying them as the best team in the NFC?
No. I think the Green Bay Packers are the best team.
I'll buy San Francisco.
Yeah.
Are
they the best team in their division?
Right now, yeah.
Yes.
Seattle's very good as well. They're in the conversation.
San Francisco, to me, is the best team in that division.
Listen, the fact that they're in that conversation speaks volumes, right? We're a month into the season. But for me, San Francisco has a functional identity on both sides of the football. And it's reliable. We were just talking about the Browns going, we don't know who they are, 1 week good, 1 week bad. This team has a reliable identity week after week. As funny as it sounds,
the highest paid guy on this roster may be their liability. That's the thing, Garoppolo. That's the thing we don't know yet, is when he is pressed into those moments when he's going to have to throw the ball 40 or 50 times, because that game is coming, can he do it and sustain what they need to be?
2 things to that. I believe in the coach so much that he will mask some of what might be that with Jimmy G. And then the question becomes this now. What teams in the NFC offensive line-wise can match up against what we saw to be a dominant D-line?
How many games has he started to this point?
14.
His whole career, 14. He hasn't even started one NFL season's worth of games.
And I think he's 12-2 or something like that.
The numbers are pretty good. Okay, we'll have much more on Monday Night Football and the rest of your NFL picture as we go. But postseason baseball, let's go.
Yeah, we had the Twins serving as the Bee Gees as we bring in Mark Teixeira, trying to stay alive. Last time, yesterday's star for the Yankees played the Twins. He was 7 years old. I'm talking about Gleyber Torres, who just had himself a game.
He did, and Gleyber Torres has been great for the Yankees all season long. The Twins had to get out early. They had a chance here against Luis Severino.
Unable to get it to go, though. Marwin Gonzalez here. In fact, the Twins stranded 11 runners in scoring position. They've got to feel like so many missed opportunities.
Absolutely, and the Twins came into this game losing 12 straight against the Yankees in the postseason. And when you have opportunities with the bases loaded, you have to capitalize.
Especially because look at this play. It's Gleyber again. He Gleybered and delivered, and Aaron Boone is pumped, 22 years old, and getting it done.
And the reason Aaron Boone is pumped is a lot of people are saying that the Yankees defense isn't good enough to win a world championship. I beg to differ.
You combine that defense, you combine it with Aroldis Chapman, who has been about as reliable as they come, struck out 3 batters in a 5-out save opportunity, and the Yankees win it 5-1, the first team to move on to the League Championship Series. So we wait to see who they'll play, either the Astros or the Rays. With that being said, Tex, based on what you saw from these Yankees, who dominated the entire series, what's their outlook going forward?
I mean, the sky's the limit. I mean, I think this team can win a World Series. That's not a stretch at all. And the reason is that all season long, we touched on this yesterday, they've been hurt all year. They've had injuries in their starting rotation. Now Luis Severino is back healthy. You saw him throwing 99 miles an hour. Now their lineup is healthy. When you have 1 through 9 in the Yankees lineup, they can all get on base. They can all hit home runs, hitting doubles. This team can score runs in a lot of different ways. And I think that's why the Yankees are so dangerous.
One of the favorites in the AL. Let's go to one of the favorites in the NL. I'm talking about the Nationals and the Dodgers. A lot of people didn't think this was going to be a big one or a good one or a tight one, but it certainly was. Game 4, Dodgers leading the series 2-1 with an opportunity to close it out. Bottom of the 5th, he led the majors in Ribby. Anthony Rendon comes up again.
And this is the MVP candidate. The Dodgers are a team that if they get up early, they have questions in the bullpen. And so when Washington got into the Dodgers bullpen, they did some damage, as you saw here with Ryan Zimmerman.
Ryan Zimmerman, the 35-year-old ageless wonder, the 3-run shot puts the Nationals up 5-1. We just talked about the Yankees leaning on a 22-year-old. How about the Nationals leaning on the old guys? Because not only was there an old guy at the bat, there was an old guy on the bump as well, at least by baseball purposes. 35-year-old Max Scherzer had an absolute jet.
He was so good, and he had to be, because the Nationals bullpen hasn't been good either. Max Scherzer was vintage. He was throwing 95 to 96, mixing in that changeup, that slider. He had the Dodgers off balance all game long.
A masterful performance from Scherzer. Gets out of the jam there, finishes a 7 innings pitch, 1 earned run, 7 Ks, and the Nationals win 6-1. The series now tied. They'll play again on Wednesday. But I want to go back to that Zimmerman home run. It was obviously huge, and it blew the game open. But you saw something that you liked that led up to that. What did you see?
So the numbers will tell you they had a lefty on the mound. They switched for the righty. You see Dave Roberts come in here. Pedro Baez, a really good right-handed pitcher. The numbers say bring in the lefty. As Drupal Cabrera is a switch hitter, he could have come on. But you know what? They stuck with their 35-year-old veteran. I love that the Nationals had the confidence in Ryan Zimmerman right on right here. In the day of analytics, we used our gut instinct, and Ryan Zimmerman came through.
And all credit to them, because we sat on the show yesterday and criticized them for putting in Patrick Corbin and relying on analytics and not going with their gut. And they did the opposite, and it certainly was to their benefit. Very quickly, edge in Game 5. Who's getting it? Nationals, Dodgers.
It's the Nationals because of Steven Strasburg.
It's the Nationals.
It's the Nationals.
Some intrigue. We've got much more with Tex, but let's get back to the NFL, Greeny.
Yeah, let's get to the Cowboys here, because after a 3-0 start, they have dropped back-to-back games. The volume has been there for Dak Prescott, but the results have not. He's thrown 4 picks in the last 2, including 3 Sunday against the Packers. And at the same time, Ezekiel Elliott has seen his volume and efficiency dip during the losing streak, averaging just over 3 yards a carry and under 50 rushing yards a game these last 2 weeks. And the Cowboys defense has also taken a big step back, especially Sunday against the Packers, where Aaron Jones ran all over them. He was the first player, in fact, ever to rush for 4 touchdowns against the Cowboys. So were they paper tigers? They breezed through their first 3 games, and everyone loved them, but they played terrible teams. Now they step up in class, and you can see the numbers have come way down. So I want to go to my favorite former Cowboy here, and you still live in Dallas, Swagoo, so you're very close to this. What is the biggest concern you have right now about the Cowboys?
That Zeke Elliott is not the focus of this offense. That's number one. And look, we can get away from it and talk about we've been enamored with that contract situation, with what Amari Cooper has been able to do. But here's Cam Fleming. And this is something Dan and I were texting about during the game. We talked about it last week. That was under duress the entire game because Tyron Smith didn't play. Cam Fleming was destroyed by Zadarius Smith. And some of this is not on Dak. And then when you start to talk about Zeke being the focus of this offense, he is everything to how they operate and how they maneuver from an offensive standpoint. When he gets going, Dak is a better football player, the receivers are more open, and the offensive line is protected against guys pass rushing every single down.
You know, Swagoo, my concern is on the other side of the ball. If we go back over the last 2 weeks, the Saints and the Packers, they control the ball for over 36 minutes. It's really hard to win games when your defense is on the field for 36 minutes, and Aaron Jones just tore them up. That defense is built to play with the lead, rush the passer, and they couldn't get off the field, and that's a big problem. So it's the old axiom. You want to pass the score and run to win. They can't get Zeke Elliott going in the second half because they can't get off the field on defense.
Yeah, I'm with Mike. You know, we could talk about the offense all we want, but this offense had 8.3 yards per game or per play last week. The Cowboys as a football team are built to play with the lead, right? They're built to get the lead on offense and then let the speed of their defense kill. Unless they get down and you face a coach who knows how to attack you. The Green Bay Packers and Matt LaFleur said, okay, you're incredibly fast and athletic at linebacker. We're just going to use a bunch of jet motion, fake reverses to open up a ton of seams in our run game. And this is what we saw all game out of the Green Bay Packers was attacking these two greats in Van Der Esch and Jalen Smith with linebackers.
Okay.
So this defense, we got to talk about this defense that can't get off the football field.
Here's what's hard for me about what you guys saying. You turn the ball over 3 times, you're going to lose the game, more than likely.
Right.
This Dallas defense is an opportunistic defense. But the reason why they had so much success is because this offense ran the football.
Because they were covered up for it.
They controlled clock and tempo. Now they want to RPO. They want to throw the ball, and they're 3 plays and out, or they turning the ball over.
I have to leave it here because we have to get to we have a lot to get to. I'm going to get this guy warmed up, and we have a lot to say about the Cowboys. But there is one story right now that obviously takes precedence in every conceivable way in the world of sports. Let's get to that.
Thanks, Greeny. China's state broadcaster CCTV says it will no longer air 2 NBA preseason games set to be played in China this week. In a statement, CCTV indicated the decision was prompted by NBA Commissioner Adam Silver's remarks on Monday supporting Rockets general manager Daryl Morey's right to free speech. You may remember last week Morey tweeted support for anti-government demonstrations in Hong Kong. A few hours ago, Silver spoke again in Japan and was asked about the growing controversy.
We are not apologizing for Daryl exercising his freedom of expression. I regret, again, having communicated directly with many friends in China that so many people are upset, including millions and millions of our fans. I don't come here sort of either as the commissioner of the NBA as an American, certainly to tell others how they should run their governments. I think, though, at the end of the day, though, I am an American, and there are these values that are deeply rooted in the DNA of the NBA, and that includes freedom of expression for our employees. And I'm hoping that together Yao Ming and I can find an accommodation.
The Nets and Lakers set to square off in Shanghai on Thursday, and that's where we find our Rachel Nichols. And Rachel, I know that you spent time with the Nets players today. What are they saying about the growing controversy between the league and the Chinese government?
Yeah, Elle, you heard Adam Silver there reference Yao Ming. Yao is actually now the chairman of the Chinese Basketball Association, and Silver shared with everyone that Yao is, quote, extremely hot about what has transpired over the past week, and he's not the only one. The Nets were supposed to be at an NBA Cares event today here in Shanghai. They were supposed to dedicate a learning center at an elementary school, and instead that was canceled by the Bureau of Education. So instead we caught up with some of the Nets players at the team hotel, and I asked them just what was it like to be in the middle of all of this. DeAndre Jordan told me, and this probably isn't a big surprise, guys, that he knows people are going to want them to come out and take a stand here, but he does not feel that qualified to comment on a geopolitical situation that's taking place halfway around the world from where he lives and is very nuanced. The guys just told me they'd like to play some basketball here, and we will have to see if that actually happens. The Lakers arrive tonight. They have an NBA Cares event scheduled for tomorrow. We're waiting to find out if that's going to go forward, and we're waiting to find out if the game itself is going to go forward. On Thursday, Adam Silver is going to meet with some officials here in Shanghai tomorrow, and we'll find out if they're going to play ball.
Rachel Nickus has the latest on this developing story, a story that we'll have for you here on Get Up and through all of the ESPN platforms. Thanks, Rachel. Coming up right here on Get Up, Zion taking flight. We've got his first NBA dunks from a fantastic debut in Atlanta. You'll want to see it. Plus, Bruce Allen says the Redskins don't have a culture problem. Marcus Spears just choked on his water. What do our analysts think about that? It's all coming up on Get Up.